Now let's see how we can manage these lights and create some interesting lighting setups. So first thing that I'm going to do is just to visualize this better, I'm going to disable exposure. And as you can see, my scene gets way darker. And that is because exposure, what it does is basically automatically tries to increase or decrease the visibility of your scene, depending on if you're looking at the dark space on your scene or on the light part. So you can, when you disable the game settings, you can manually tweak this and get whatever exposure you want. So right now let's keep it at 1, and we are going to start messing with the lights. So let's enable a rectangle light, and here this is our first light, so we can make it just let's say white, so something like this. So here in this color picker you have few options to play with. So as you saw, I could have just moved my color picker here, but getting the right white value might be a bit hard. So the best way to do that here is saturation. So basically, the more you go to the edges, the more saturation there is. The less you go to the edges and to the middle, the less saturation there is. So this is like a really easy way to get to the middle or get the white color. So that's why I just pull the saturation that I want to get to white. And of course, you can also increase value if you just want to get to the black. Black is 0, white is 1. Uh, let's click OK. And now let's increase this a bit. Get something like that. I think we also have the temperature use. Let's actually use a bit of temperature to get something like this. Let's put it down also. Now let's use our spotlight to create a backlight basically. So first what I'm going to do is decrease the cone angle. Let's put it to 0 if we can. And one thing about these lights is that when you render the scene, these lights uh, that were set to invisible, here they will be visible. So things that you have to do to disable this is in few ways. So you can click to affect world or not. You can also make it invisible in the render, or you can just set intensity to 0, which is effectively this light won't be doing anything. So yeah, if the light is just disabled here, that doesn't mean that light doesn't shine onto your character. So, or won't shine later, because this is just temporarily invisible in the scene while we are working. So now let's try to create some rim lights here. Now what we can do here is go to local. So when we go to local, it's a bit easier to rotate. So I'm just gonna do that so I can rotate this light. Let's move it back a bit, maybe outer core angle, get something like that. Let's try to make it look good from this side. And we can disable the local mode. Let's see. So we need to rotate it a bit here. Something like this. And you can see we are now getting a bit of the rim light here. We can also change colors to see it a bit better. Let's say green. Let's increase this to, let's say, 70. Now if we move it a bit, depending on how much rim light we want, we can also, I think, change a bit of the outer cone. Something like that. And now we have this nice rim light. Maybe make it a red color. Let's click OK. And the last light that we are going to put in is this point light to make something cool from behind. Maybe a soft light. So let's say it's standing here on the wall. And here is also a good idea to use the layouts. So maybe set something like this. And now we can go from the top view. Let's rotate here. We can go from top view, see where exactly we want it to stand. Let's go back to our normal layout. And now that we have it in the position, we can increase the attenuation radius, maybe it's 800, something like that. Let's change the light color to the contrast to the red, something like this. Let's click OK, and maybe blast it out a bit. And as you can see, you get some pretty nice reflections down here. And yeah, you can play around. There is a few lighting setups that are really good. So you have like the front facing light, you have the side facing soft light, and things like that. And Unreal gives you all these options that you can kind of customize your lighting setup. So we can also enable the directional light, but I don't think in this scene it looks that good. Maybe if we decrease the intensity. The thing with the directional light is that it does not have fall off with light, so everywhere it will be intensity of 2, while the other lights, let's say this point light, so it will be the strongest at the center and then it will fall off over time. But the directional light doesn't have that. It's kind of like a sun, it just blasts light in a direction. And we can of course change the direction. Maybe want it just something like this, get some effect there. And that's essentially the basics of the light of Unreal. And you can play around with them, move them around. You literally can't go wrong. Get familiar with them, so you can later use them to your advantage when creating a scene, cinematic, or for a game.